Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life and always remind you to enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inner Blueprint, the podcast designed specifically for the home improvement industry, but with its ripple effect, helping millions of people worldwide remove self-limiting beliefs, the chains that hold us all back. I'm your co-host, Shawn the Universal Mindset Disruptor, here with the beautiful, radiant
Kaitlyn Foyer.
And what's your title, babe?
Empowerment specialist.
And what does that mean?
It means I just love to empower people to live their best life.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. My favorite thing about Miss Kaitlyn is she is my galactic cheerleader. She, cheers me on when things are challenging, when things are hard. I get words of affirmation from her. You know, when I first met her, I was still figuring things out in my business and in my life, and she would tell me all the time. What did you used to say to me? Do you remember?
You're kind of a big deal.
Yeah. And what did I say back?
Shush.
Shush.
Shush me.
Shush.
And it's so funny. I mean, I really do have this innate power to see the potential in people to a fault. You know, for a lot of my life, that was a huge hindrance to me, and it still does. I see people as they can be, not necessarily for who they are.
You see the potential.
I see the potential. I see the potential in people. It's like all I see, right? I can't see what's in front of me. I see where they're going, and it's like takes everything in me to get them there. Like I know people can be so much greater than they are currently.
Well, you've done a good job of that with me.
You've stepped in. You've leaned in really well.
Well, today we're going to talk all about the power of affirmation. And I kind of brought that up because that's one of the things. And when Kaitlyn and I met, I was already doing affirmations every single day.
You had a lot.
I had a lot to work on. And, she gave me some new ones, and she did a good job, even when I was shushing her, of telling me something over and over until I leaned into and I believed it. But let's break this down. We're going to go deep this episode. So I hope you're ready to take some notes. I hope you're ready for some transformation, because the power of affirmation is something that I believe for most of my life I wasn't aware of. I didn't realize how powerful this is. So I kind of want to start, and I pulled up here just a definition of affirmation, a couple definitions here. The action or process of affirming something or being affirmed. Secondary definition, emotional support or encouragement. Okay. And I love that, because think about it. When you're affirming something, you're affirming I'm a big deal.
Yeah, you're not just saying it, you're affirming it.
Affirming it. That's saying something that may not be true in the moment, but we want to make it true.
Yeah.
And that to me is the whole point. And I think before we go a little bit further on affirmation, why would we do affirmation? What are we trying to change with the power of affirmation?
Our reality, honestly.
Our reality, which goes through our mind.
Yeah.
Our mind. So, and if you've listened to any of our episodes, we talk about this a lot, but I'm going to use our little mind diagram. It's this little diagram we have for the mind. The way this works is we've got your five senses, the way we process information: seeing, touching, hearing, feeling. Information comes to you. Your conscious mind observes it. Your subconscious mind is where the programs are. That's where the paradigm. That's where the affirmations are built in, right? And for a lot of us, we have negative affirmations that are part of our mind. Thought creates feeling. Feeling creates action. Action creates result.
Yes.
When we're talking about the power of affirmation, we're trying to change something that's programmed into our mind. For me, I guess at some level, I was programmed I wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
You were programmed that would be a bad thing to be a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something about pride or cockiness or arrogance.
Or ego. You thought it was ego. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, and we're not going to go totally into where those things come from, but for each one of us, if right now you're looking at your life and you want some better results, the results you're getting are coming from what's in your mind, which you're automatically affirming. And most of us have negative affirmations that are running over and over, and we have to shift them. The example we use for me is, Kaitlyn says I'm a big deal. I don't think I am. Am I? Could I? And just playing with that and working with it. For you, when I first met you, you had a paradigm that was programmed pretty strong, that was your own internal affirmation. And what was that, Kaitlyn?
That I'm too much.
You're too much.
I'm a lot. I love it, right? I love it now, but I I hated it. It was such a bad term to me.
Yeah, you told me instances, if you were going to meet somebody new and you had friends around you, what would they say?
Like, tone it down. Tone it down. Like, you need to tone yourself down. Like, you need to calm down.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't be myself. Like, and so it's like I was putting up these masks or putting on these masks or putting up these walls that I couldn't be me.
To try to not be you, because when you stepped in authentically to being Kaitlyn, it's too much.
Yeah, it was
too much.
I was just triggering to a lot of people.
And again,
I'm a trigger to a lot of people. I am. It's okay. That has nothing to do with me.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
But again, when we're talking about the mind and what resides in the mind, if it's a program or a paradigm that sits there, Kaitlyn's running around consciously trying to love people, help people, be herself. And she has this program running that's automatic now. It's been told to her so many times. Mm-hmm. She's too much. She's too much. She's too much. And the work that we do with the power of affirmation is identifying, one, that's not true.
Yeah.
You're absolutely not too much, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that?
I do know that.
Do we need to muscle test that?
No, we don't know muscle test. I know it.
But if you realize that something you believe about yourself is not true, how do we change it? How do we change it? And that's what we really want to lean into today, because if I want better results around me, in my money, in my health and wellness, in my relationships, sometimes I have to change the story that's been told to my mind. Mm-hmm. And that's how we use the power of affirmation.
Yeah. It's that simple. And it's so funny because people go, you can't change who you are just by affirming something.
Oh.
Isn't that funny that people think that? Like that, it seems too easy.
Well, and I don't want to go too deep here, but that's, your mind is telling you something, mm-hmm. and you're assuming you are your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you hit on that because I work with so many people that are like, that's just how I am. That's just who I am. Like my mind is programmed this way. So something must be wrong with me. And it's just who I am.
Yeah.
But it's not. You explain it that it's a tool.
Yeah. And
this is a tool.
And if you think about it, I mean, I've got two hands. My hands are very powerful. I can move them around. I can create things. I can hit things. I can do all sorts of amazing, they're tools. They're a part of my body. When I look at my mind, I try to be an observer of it. It's just a tool. And it's a tool that God gave us. It's very powerful. I mean, the human mind, think of the world we live in today. All the amazing things.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the phones we use, the computers, the screens we get.
The vehicles we drive. How we travel.
They all came from somebody's mind, from somebody's imagination. So we're gifted these powerful minds, but then we're not taught how to use them. And the minds are programmed. You know, my mind was programmed. Your mind, I thought I wasn't a big deal. I thought I was in scarcity. I thought I wasn't a good father, a good husband, a good business person when I met Miss Kaitlyn.
Which is so funny. I would have never guessed that, but those were deep programs running deep inside you. So when I would say things like, you're a big deal, or like, do you know how great you are? You would shush me. I mean, literally shush me. And luckily for me, we all know if you tell me to do something, I'm going to do the exact opposite. Like, that's just who I am.
Well, yeah, so you had a challenge in front of you.
You say shush, I'm like, yeah, now I'm going to be louder.
Yeah, but going back, I mean, this powerful mind gets programmed with these stories that aren't true, that aren't ours. In today's episode, we're going to share with you the tools to change it. If you don't like the story that you're identifying with, you know, and I know I've worked with a lot of people, myself included, Miss Kaitlyn, that we had some scarcity about who we were, about money, about relationships. And we were recreating that over and over with an old story that was programmed into us. And how did it get there? Hearing it over and over again, emotional events. That's it. Two ways. And the power of affirmation is your power to change that, to take control of this mind that's not who you are, it's what you think you are, and to give us some different thoughts. And I want to kind of share with you a few tools, because for everybody listening, this might hit you differently. You know, and I've been through a journey. You know, when I met Miss Kaitlyn, I've been working with this material for about 10, 15 years. I had a yellow notepad that I was writing affirmations, working on my mind as I met her, and she unknowingly helped me with it by giving me some difference. So when we're talking about the power of affirmation, one resource you can go to is the book Think and Grow Rich. Chapter 4, the power of autosuggestion. And autosuggestion is just telling your mind something over and over that at the time you don't believe is true. You may want it to be, you may hope it, but you don't believe it's true. And the mind is programmable. It was programmed with this disbelief in the first place. So we take the power of autosuggestion and we tell it a different story.
Yeah.
Another example?
There's so many. I mean, it's so hard because you can go so deep with this, but then you can go so surface level with this, and it can be very experiential. You know, if our daughters are freaking out because they're teenage daughters, and teenage daughters do that. Like, I'll say in my head over and over, like, I am calm, I am calm, I am calm, I am calm, I am calm. In the moment, I do not feel calm. I feel like I'm like going to rage out. Then I just tell myself I am calm, and I just listen and I observe, and I don't try to hurry and fix it, or I don't react, right?
Yeah.
I am calm, I am calm, I am calm, I am calm. And it just goes over and over in my head until the moment has passed and I'm able to respond in an appropriate way.
Yeah. I mean, we had the other night, we were at dinner with the girls, and our oldest, our 16-year-old Hallie, had something happen with some friends. We don't have to share the details. I want to protect her privacy here. But she had something happen, and literally it triggered something in her mind.
And she shut down.
And she shut down. And the program that's in her mind started running, and we did an interrupt. I actually took a funny picture of myself. She's on Snapchat. Anyone who has teenage kids, they like to take just pictures of themselves. So I took a funny picture of myself, texted to her at the dinner table.
Because we don't have Snapchat. So
we don't have it. Yeah,
we have to mess
I recreated it, but I interrupted that.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because we watched her energy change. She got out of the program that was running, and then she opened up and started talking about, in a very healthy way, what was bothering her, and we had a good conversation.
And we threw affirmations out, like, is that true, Hallie? Like, do you really believe that? Is that who you are? And it was, she was like, no. And so she started saying things that she actually was, affirming who she actually was. And she was laughing within a matter of moments. It was a quick paradigm shift, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the cool thing with the power of auto-suggestion. We're able to do that.
We deal with clients all day, every day. Yeah. All day, every day. People call and they think, oh my gosh, I'm having the hardest day, or I'm having this situation, Then we're able to just identify what the paradigm is.
Is that true? Is that yours?
Yeah.
Is that really happening right now? Or is this something from the past? The mind's it's triggering a program that's inside of you that's not serving you very well.
And often affirmations are the fastest, most efficient way to create a paradigm shift.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny too, because, and you might be thinking this, listener, I've dealt with people who are like, what are you talking about? I don't do affirmations. That's like that old Saturday Night Live skit where they had the guy that would get on talking about, gosh darn it, I'm worth it, and I'm beautiful, and I'm amazing. And people laugh at it.
Yeah.
But as they're laughing at the power of affirmation, and think about this for a minute. If you get into a challenging situation, a lot of times you don't naturally start giving yourself a pep talk. You start going to the negative. You start telling yourself the stories. So most people are affirming themselves all day, every day. They just don't realize it.
Negatively.
Yes.
And then we've hit on that on past episodes, right? Like we affirm ourselves negatively all day, every day. When we're getting ready, if we're running late for work, if we're,
the way we look, the way we act, the way we feel, we sit and negatively affirm ourselves, and it's just a program that's running over and over.
Yeah.
So again, the tool is auto-suggestion, and one of the most powerful affirmation statements that I've found is the I am statement.
Yeah.
And it does come from the Bible. We don't get religious in our work, but we do get spiritual. And listeners, if you want another tool for this, get this book. Read it. It's called The Moses Code. That's written by James Twyman, and it just talks about the power of affirmation using one of the most powerful statements you can use to speak something into existence, the I am statement. Mm-hmm. With Miss Kaitlyn, she would tell me, you're a big deal, you're a big deal. I didn't believe it. Do you know one way I started believing it? I started saying, I am a big deal. I am a big deal. And again, how does the mind get programmed? It can't hear it just one time. It has to hear it over and over and over again until it becomes a new belief, or as we call it, a new paradigm. And for most people, it takes 21 to 30 days. I've got clients that have shared with me that for some of them, it takes about 60 days. Saying it, for some people, writing it down can be more powerful every single day. And that's literally what we're talking about here. It's just the power of affirmation, deciding something you want more of inside of yourself and literally just affirming it every single day.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, the work you do on yourself never ends. It's a constant, it's an everyday thing. We go to work a lot of us go to work at jobs all day and you work for someone else, but what are you doing for yourself? And you've got to work on yourself. And so your affirmations change. Mine have changed over and over. Some of them have not, some of them stay, but some of them become new as I go deeper into how programmed my mind is and the things that I don't believe, because it sometimes an affirmation is a surface level thing, and then you say it, you believe it, and you're like, but wait a minute, why do I still feel this way sometimes? What's the deeper, what goes deeper to that?
It's interesting. An example I'd like to have you bring up for listeners, and men deal with this, but especially women. We live in a world where you get programmed from the outside about body image, about what is the perfect woman's body. What should I look like? How much should I weigh? And that gets programmed from the outside in. And
All
we're
day.
all different. Every single one of us is different. And Kaitlyn's got an amazing, beautiful body. She is beautiful, but she was told stories on the outside that she questioned that. And what's something you have an affirmation you use? I love when you share that. Are you okay? And what's your body affirmation?
Oh, I say this literally 100 times a day. I mean, or more. I say it all the time. I say, and it's like a chant, right? It's like a
That's
war
what an affirmation
chant.
is a chant.
It's a
yes.
war chant to myself that I just say over and over and over, and it's really helped my body dysmorphia. It's gone. It's almost completely gone, other than circumstantially when things come
Yeah.
up. But I love my body. My body is perfect. My body is sexy. I love my body. I say it over and over and over, and I've taught so many other women this, and they've released weight. They've changed their appearance. They look different because they've let go of whatever they were holding on to at a subconscious level where they didn't believe that. And it could have been something stupid of like they were bullied when they were in third grade and they were holding on to something that some 7-year-old girl told them at the time or whatever it was, right? And it's so funny that something so simple can make the biggest change to people. And that's, people don't believe me sometimes when they're like, what are you doing? Like, what's your workout plan?
Everybody thinks she's on a strict eating plan, that she works out all the time, and she honestly doesn't. She was eating Cheetos and drinking a Coke before this episode.
They sounded so good. And so, but it's true. Just those affirmations and some breath work of leaning into what do I need to release has really transformed my body. It's transformed the way I look. It's transformed the way I perceive others.
What about the way you feel?
Extremely.
Because again, the thought creates the feeling, and the feeling creates the action. And she wasn't always feeling good about herself, her body. And so she created different thoughts with this chant that she does.
That was like, yeah.
They
Because
created
before
better
it was
feelings.
Yeah, because before it was working against it. I'd say it, but then I'd still think an opposite way or believe an opposite way. And it was like I was working against it nonstop, right?
Well, when before you met me too, you had people in your life that affirmed the negative, right?
Yeah.
That there was something wrong with your body.
I still have people in my life, they play a much smaller role now that
challenge it.
That challenge it, that affirm me negatively. And
I mean, one thing I want to hit on here that you brought up, Kaitlyn, that is really powerful, and listeners, she talked about that we work so hard, and most of us are programmed to work really hard at the gym, to work really hard at our job, but we're not programmed to work really hard on our minds.
No.
And with power of affirmation, I want you to think of it like a muscle. If I want to get a bigger bicep, most of us know that in order to do that, you can't go to the gym one time and get a big bicep. Most people go to the gym repeatedly 3 to 5 times a week for 6 months, year, or years in order to grow a muscle. It's the same principle we're applying here to the mind. You can't have the thought one time and have that grow in your mind. You have to me, it's like going to the mind gym every day. When I wake up, I have my ritual I go through, and it includes affirmation. And I liken it to going to the gym. I'm in my mind's gym right now. What do I want to believe? What do I want to affirm? And then I say it over and over. And I don't do it one day. I don't do it 2 days. I've been doing this work for over 5 years, every single day. And I know it's like going to the physical gym. If I want a strong mind, just like if I want a strong bicep, and I do need to get to the gym. It's been a few days. We've been traveling a lot. But I go to the mental gym every day. And that's the crazy thing, is it's so easy. The process we teach takes less than 30 minutes a day, and you don't have to pay us to get the process. I share it freely all the time.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is people don't do it.
Yeah, they don't do it. And it's so funny. It reminds me of the story of chopping wood, right?
Oh, yeah.
The chopping wood, because we are all programmed, especially in America. I'll say this mainly for Americans, that it has to be hard. 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 So that story of there's 2 men chopping wood, and one guy is just going at it nonstop.
8 hours straight.
8 hours straight, chopping wood. Doesn't stop. And this other man is chopping wood, and they get to the end of the day, and his pile is bigger than the guy who's chopping wood for 8 hours.
But what did he do during the day?
Yeah, this guy every 45 minutes would stop for 15 minutes, take a break, go sharpen his axe, come back, and because he was sharpening his axe, he was able to cut more wood.
But the gentleman next to him didn't know, and at the end of it, the guy asked him, he said, what the hell? He said,
yeah, you were taking breaks every 15 or every 45 minutes.
I didn't take one break, and you chopped more wood. And that's when the guy revealed, well, I was sharpening my axe. And to me, my mindset work that I do every day, it's working that mental muscle.
And it's not hard. It's not going nonstop, hard.
It can be challenging.
It's challenging, but it's not hard.
When you don't believe it. If you are stuck in scarcity and you don't believe abundance is possible, it can be really hard to wake up every day and say, I'm abundant, because your mind will tell you have you looked at your bank account? Did you see your last paycheck? You are not abundant right now.
Yeah, your credit card declined. Like, you're not
That's-
abundant.
That's the power, is you have to affirm over the physical result that you don't like. And I mean, it is challenging. When I met Miss Kaitlyn, I've shared it pretty authentically and pretty vulnerably. I went through a challenging period in my life where financially I was not doing well, where in my health and wellness I was being challenged, in my relationships I was being challenged. And the story that had been programmed into me was that I wasn't a good husband, that I wasn't a good father, that I wasn't a good provider. And the physical world was kind of backing it up. And when I started writing on a legal notepad these affirmations that I am abundant, that I am an amazing husband, I didn't believe it. And it wasn't easy to do. There were days when I went to write it and say it that I didn't want to. I did not want to, because the physical world was telling me such a strong story that didn't support it, that supported the complete opposite, that I felt like a liar. I felt like I was bullshitting myself.
Yeah.
And guess what? When you get into some deep, powerful affirmation work, that's exactly what you're doing.
And it is so funny, because I have people tell that time, like, that's too easy. Like, that you're up in the night. Like, that's woo-woo. It's not real. Like, that's not real.
It's so real.
It's like,
so
look at our
works.
results. It is absolutely 100% real. Like, we go harder than we've ever gone, but it doesn't feel harder because it's a different kind of hard. It's more of a challenge than hard work, right?
Oh, I mean, even right now, I mean, we teach this, we facilitate this, we live it. Right now, I personally have got a mindset coach that's helping me get my mindset to even better levels. And I've got an energy worker I'm working with. And, what did you say I'm going through right now? I'm crashing and burning.
You're crashing out, a little bit of crashing out, because you're working through things that go deeper than you realized, right? And so it's showing up. These core beliefs that you're working through,
I'm
are
working
showing
with
up
an
in all
energy
areas.
worker that's working with my mind. I have awareness of my mind. I've programmed my mind, and even still, there are things that are in my 95%, which is how much of your subconscious mind controls, that are from childhood. Crap I thought I dealt with, but as we get into it, your mind remembers everything.
Yeah.
It does. It remembers everything.
Even if you don't consciously remember exactly what happened to make you feel that way, your mind remembers. Like, and the body keeps score, and it's hidden inside of you, and so then it shows up in all the other areas, because it doesn't just show up in one area. Like a self-limiting belief doesn't show up in one area. It shows up in all
your money
areas,
and your health and wellness
all
and your
areas.
relationships.
And that's where I say those affirmations get deeper. Like, for you, one is, I am safe.
Yeah.
And it's something that you're like, I create safe places for people. I am a safe space, but at some level.
Yeah, no, this was hard. I'm going to get vulnerable here. Like, as I started working with this powerful energy coach, she said, Shawn, I don't think you've ever felt safe. And she does, anyone who's ever dealt with kinesiology, they do muscle testing, very accurate, very powerful. And I tested that I never felt safe. And I did, I was born into a little bit of a chaotic environment. I had people I loved and cared about that disappeared very early in life. And I never felt safe. And I've worked really hard to create safe spaces. And I'm a good provider and protector. But at some level, I had this limiting internal belief
that you weren't safe.
That I wasn't safe. And 99% of me believes I'm safe now. I've really done a lot of work. And it's interesting. I want to share this because, this is the power of affirmation. This coach I'm working with, as we were diving into this and I was getting a little bit emotional, I was feeling into it. She said, the vision I see is you're like a scared little boy stuck in the dark, singing to himself to make himself feel better. And literally that hit me hard. I started laughing. I said, well, I've actually built a whole business around teaching grown men and grown women to sing in the dark. And sometimes with the power of affirmation, that's literally what we're doing. When I'm in a moment where I'm feeling challenged, I'm feeling scarcity, I'm feeling not enoughness, I have to sing to myself. I literally have to say, no, I am abundant. No, I am powerful. No, I am enough. And if I say it often enough, I will start to believe it. So I do like teaching people to sing in the dark. When we're scared, when we're afraid, most of the time, there's nothing in the dark to be afraid of. It's just the absence of light. That's all it is.
Yeah, and we can tie this back to so many of our business owners, both male and female, that are providing these safe spaces for their employees to come to, that are, they're able to pay their employees and create a great company for them to work in. And on the inside, Like they're doing all of that on the outside because on the inside, they still don't feel safe. They still have those self-beliefs like, am I going to make payroll? Is my company really as great as it's going to, as I think it is?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes they have things where an employee tells them otherwise, or a customer tells them otherwise.
Or the bank account tells you
or
otherwise.
the bank account tells them otherwise.
How am I going to make payroll this week?
Yeah. Yeah. And so then, you know, I love the breakthroughs we have with our clients the longer that they're with us, that they go deeper into these affirmations. And maybe, you know, I am safe, or I am worthy, or I am abundant is something that they said from the beginning, but it's hitting different now.
Yeah.
It's hitting different now.
Well, and I think too, there's a story that we're all told, and I'm going to give this from the male perspective, but I heard it a lot, especially when I was struggling. Shawn, nobody's coming to save you.
Yeah. So that was when I was told over and over and over as well. Yeah.
Yeah. The buck stops here. And when you think about that, well shit, I am scared right now. I'm nervous. I'm not enough. How am I going to pay this? How am I going to do this? And for me, that's where I go to my spirituality.
But that's what I love is I always loved hearing like, nobody's going to save you. And I was like, you're right. It's up to me.
Yeah.
Like, and that is so empowering, right? Like that, to me, that was never scary. It was like, well, I know I can count on me.
Yeah.
I know I can count on me. So if I'm the one that's left to save me, then I'm in great hands. Like I got this, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have to rely on someone else to do that. So it's so funny that we can just switch that too, right?
Yeah, no, I can. And that's the thing too is, you know, yes, we're controlled by our mind. Yes, we're limited, but you have the power to change that. And when you realize the buck does stop with you, but it stops with your mind and what you're thinking,
Good
what you're thinking might not serve you and you can change it.
Yeah.
That's when you go, you know, Bob Proctor used to talk about going from bondage to freedom.
Yep.
And I know for me, in the work that we've done together as a couple, in our work, I've gone from bondage in my mind in a lot of areas to almost complete and ultimate freedom. And
freedom and just expansion. Like it's limitless completely. And I don't like the word limitless, but it's.
Oh, it is limitless.
It is.
We are
There's
literally
no limit.
limited by our mind. And the mind is the most powerful creation tool on this planet. And when we take the limiters off and step into our abundance, our power, our enoughness. And again, how do you do that?
It's so easy.
I am statements. Say them.
I guess it's not easy.
Feel them.
I shouldn't say that. It's not easy. It's simple. Right? It's like a recipe, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, this is the easiest dinner to make. And you're like, you read the recipe and you're like, that does not sound easy. But then you break it down. You're like, okay, no, I get it. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
And that's what I think affirmations are. They're very simple, but it's not easy because you have to, you know, Pat Reddyhoff talks all the time about the power of pen to paper. It's something he learned from you, and it's something he's really dove into. And he tells all of our other clients that they get on a call with Pat, he's like, write it down, write it down, write it down. And I love that. And I mean, I watched you do that with so many people. You're like, for every day I want you to write this for the next, 30 days or so. I want you to write it. And they'd send you pictures of what they were writing until they started to believe it. And again, that's not hard to do. That's something that a 5-year-old can do, right? It's not hard. It's simple.
We're just not taught that though. And using our client, Pat, who there's an episode in Inner Blueprint if you scroll back of Pat talking about a lot of the processes. But over the weekend, he literally sent me a picture of 10 affirmations
I forgot about this.
that his teenage daughter wrote to herself before a soccer match. And so cool to see that transference of belief that he's taught his daughter that she can tell herself something different. If you're going into a rough soccer game and you need to think different thoughts, you can literally write yourself a list of affirmations to control it, to auto-suggest, this is what I want to believe. We are going to win. I am powerful. I'm going to play my best. I mean,
and I do want to hit on that because I used to only coach youth, right?
Yeah.
So I coached kids from 4 to 18 or 19. And it was great because, again, this stuff isn't hard. It's easy. It's simple. Maybe not, but as we get older, it gets harder because
your athletes were more receptive than some of
way
our older
more.
clients.
I mean, I tell them, what's your affirmation? They could come up right then what it is. Like, I am strong. I am powerful. I am confident. Like, I am dependable. Like, they would just come up with all these. They'd write them on their wrists. And, they would say things like before they, went out on the mat to compete. They'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And I'd look at them, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. They would just switch it really fast because they were so receptive because again, this is simple. It's very simple. But as we get older, as the more programmed our mind gets, as life happens to us, it gets harder.
Yes.
Because it's again, a very simple task to do. But we often have so many stories that tell us the opposite of what
to make it harder,
to make it hard, and that tells the opposite. Like it's I am love or I am loved. If you don't feel like if you're single, and
You're looking for love on the outside.
you're looking for love, and you don't
yourself.
feel like I am loved. You're like, I can't write I am loved. Like, I feel like nobody loves me right now. Like, I can't write that. Whereas if I told an 8-year-old to write that, they'd be like, I am loved. I am loved. They'd write it 100 times and have no problem. I mean, I remember, might date me, but I remember having to write on the dry erase board, like, I am focused. I am focused. I am focused. I am focused.
Dating you would have been a chalkboard.
Yeah, okay, it
what I
wasn't
had
a
to write it
chalkboard.
on.
But I had to write it on a board because I wouldn't pay attention in class. And so my teacher made me write, I am focused, I am focused, I am focused, and fill up an entire whiteboard, you know? So again, it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Well, when I met you, you still had that story that you weren't focused and you couldn't focus.
Yeah, and it's one of the affirmations I say to myself often now, which is crazy. And I'll get hyper focused on things really easily.
You've become very focused
Yeah,
in a lot of areas with the power of affirmation.
Yeah,
I really have.
yeah, it's crazy how honestly affirmations just change your reality.
Yeah. And one of the things, we've talked a lot about the I am statements, and they're powerful. I can't think, and I don't know of a better way to create a better story in your mind. If you want to be more assertive, direct, powerful, whatever it is, love, light, whatever it is, you can literally create it by saying I am. But going back to the power of auto-suggestion, you can also use the power of affirmation to create behaviors. You know, in a test, you can try this tonight. Whatever time you normally wake up, you know, when we're traveling a lot, we'll get to bed at midnight and we'll have to get up at 4 a.m. to catch a flight. I'll always set an alarm clock. But you've seen
you wake up before your alarm clock almost every time.
But you know why? I tell my mind what to do before I go to sleep. 10 times before I go to sleep. If my alarm is set for 4 a.m. and I'm only getting 4 hours of sleep, the first thing I tell myself is, mind, I need 8 hours of rest in 4 hours of time. And I've told myself that over and over, and I believe I get deeper sleep. And again, whatever I believe is true. But then the next thing I tell myself right before I go to sleep, and I talk to my sub, I call it sub. I learned that from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. He always called his subconscious. Hey, sub, I need a good thought here. Hey, sub, I need something.
That's how he got the title of his book.
That's how I got the title of Think and Grow Rich was, hey, sub, I need $1 million title. But I literally say to myself, sub, wake me up at 3:59 a.m. Sub, and I say it 10 times before I go to sleep. I have yet to sleep through an alarm clock.
I've never seen you sleep through an alarm clock.
And if you're questioning some of this, I want you to try it tonight. Whatever time you normally wake up, and especially if you wake up by an alarm clock, tell your mind 10 times to wake you up a minute before your alarm. Now, this is the tricky part. Your eyes will pop open. It's up to you to get yourself up, right? The mind says eyes open, and you're laying there in bed, and every time I pick up my phone, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got a minute to spare. But then you have to take the physical action of waking up.
Oh, it's like Mel Robbins has that great 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yes.
So if you can do that, right? And so many people latch onto that. Again, super simple, right? Some people are like, oh, I can never get out of bed. It's so hard. I can't do it. Negatively for me, negatively for me, negatively for me. They take one simple step like Mel Robbins, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you get there, you have to get out.
Yes.
You do it. Like, we have clients, I mean, just last week, Emily was like, it completely changed my life.
Yes.
Something so simple.
Well, and again, your mind isn't you. It's a tool that you use to create with. One of the most powerful examples, and I saw this real world, I was at a consultant's training in Toronto, Canada with Bob Proctor, one of my first events as one of his consultant, and a woman stood up and kind of got in the hot seat in front of 250 people with Bob Proctor. And she was brand new, and she wasn't a salesperson, and she'd never sold anybody anything. And she was wanting to sell her first client into her coaching business. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced to watch Bob Proctor from the stage tell her to take control of her mind. He said, this is what I want you to do. Right now, before the break, I want you to walk out of this room. I want you to tell yourself, pick up the phone. I want you to say to yourself, fingers, dial the number. He said, do you have one person you can call right now to try to sell something? She goes, yes, I do. I want you to take control of your mind. I want you to walk out of this auditorium. I want you to command yourself to pull out your phone, to dial the number, to make your pitch, and to make a sell. She walked out of that room. At the break, he brought her back in, and guess what she did on that break? She made her first sell. Yeah. She literally took control of her mind and was coached very well by one of the masters, Bob Proctor, on tell your mind what you want to do and then go do it. And 3, 2, 1, go.
Isn't it funny that it took Bob Proctor to get her to do that? And a really simple example of this too is our iPhones, right? We have scheduled texts now. Uh-huh. And so now I can schedule texts for, we have clients, a lot of clients on the East Coast. So I'll send something at 6 o'clock their time, 4 o'clock my time. I'm not going to.
Yeah, you do it the night before. You schedule it.
I schedule that. And guess what?
It does it.
It does it. So if we can make our phones do that, we can make our minds do that.
Well, it's funny. I was working with one of our clients kids and he's younger and he has a phone and he was trying to get a program to clean his room. And I use the analogy of the phone. You think about it. We have apps on our phone that do things, right? You can literally open an app and run a program and get something accomplished. Your mind has apps. But for most of us, you know, I'm running an iPhone in my mind from the 70s and 80s because that's when I grew up, right? That's old, that's outdated, and it doesn't work for me. So every single day with the power of auto-suggestion, the power of affirmation, I can schedule a text in my mind. I can literally tell my mind. And you know, my to-do list, I have a physical one. You know I have one in my mind that I'm running through all the time. These are the 6 things that are important to get done today. Tell my mind, I need to make sure I get these done. And one thing I know for sure, as much as I can count on my mind to hold me back, I can count on it to create better results when I tell it what I want.
Yeah, I mean, our mind does whatever we tell it to.
It does.
It's that easy.
Or if we don't tell it to do anything, it's going to tell us to do what it thinks from the past, from things that don't serve us, some things that aren't true.
Well, yeah, because at some level, we are telling our mind to do that, right? Because we're not telling it something new or different. So we're telling it the same old stories.
Same old story.
Same old patterns.
But who told us that story? Did we tell it or did somebody else?
Typically, it's somebody else, and not of malice.
No, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of my old programs were from loving parents, coaches, family members that had their own paradigms. You know, I had two Great Depression grandparents. Well, they had some scarcity. And they tried to impress upon me their scarcity to keep me safe. Well, I didn't grow up in the Great Depression. I don't live in the economy or the world that they lived in. And so I use those to serve me to be smart with my money, but I override it with different paradigms and programs that serve me better. I am abundant. I'm a powerful time creator. I'm a powerful abundance builder, right? I tell myself things that are a better story for me. So, well, hopefully we've given you some good information here. Again, resources you can go to, the Moses Code, the Power of the I Am, Think and Grow Rich, the ultimate book on success. It's, 10x any other book ever written, responsible for creating good results in people's life. But in order to get the result, you have to study the book. You don't read it, you study it.
And it can be even simpler. You can start with one affirmation. I mean, I was working with a client 2 weeks ago, and I told her, I said, hey, I want you to write, I am worthy, everywhere that you look and see yourself. So I want you to write it on your bathroom mirror. I want you to write it on your rear view mirror. I want you to put it on a sticky note and put it on the dash of your car. I want you just to have it so that it's subconscious programming. The best way to do that, it's subliminal marketing, which actually goes back to an actual thing that I was taught and used a lot in my career. Subliminal marketing, where if you see the same thing over and over in different areas, and at different times,
you're going to act on it.
It gets ingrained faster, so then you're able to believe and act upon it faster.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you can choose just one. You can just choose one affirmation. Start with one today, one today.
Well, and it's interesting you brought up the worthy, because in Moses Code, the whole book is about the power of the I Am statement and affirmation. But at the end, it's got a couple tips, and one of them are the 10 blocks to manifesting.
Oh,
and guess what block number 1 is for almost every human being? Worthiness. I'm not worthy. So if you're feeling at some level you're not worthy of the success you're asking for, every single day, I'm going to give you 4. I am worthy. I am enough. I am always enough. I've always been enough. Those 4 statements, start saying them for 30 days, write them down, fill them, and get back to us. We'd love to hear from you if you try this, because I know it will work. How do I know? It's what I do every single day.
Yeah.
All right. Great episode, Kaitlyn. We shared the power of the I Am, the power of the affirmation. And as always, thank you for listening. If you like what we've shared, subscribe, send it to somebody you love and care about. And as always, enjoy the ride. It's a good one. Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn Foyer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life, and always remind you to enjoy the ride.